There we go. And what I would suggest, if any of you have any questions as we go along, please feel free to ask, because even though this is being recorded, I will assure you, if you have any questions, someone watching the recording, I'd be willing to bet they probably have the same questions, okay? So if you have any questions, any thoughts, just pipe right in. Now, right now, the screen, my screen is filled with the PowerPoint presentation, so I can't see if you have hands up or anything of that sort. So if you have a question, just pop your mic on and say, yo, get my attention, okay? And there you go. Okay, here we go. Personality. This is the first review sheet, the introductory chapter. What is personality? Gordon Allport really had a lot to say about personality. He says it's really important to try to depict it as accurately as you can. He says, his own words, with a suitable term corresponding to authentic psychological dispositions, the ability to understand and to control one's fellow man is greatly enhanced. So if personality, or the idea of personality, is going to have any value to us in psychology, we have to know exactly what is it we're talking about. And what Gordon Allport, in one of his earlier papers, I found this point very interesting, is that when a word is used in a lot of different contexts, it really doesn't have any specific meaning until you put it into a context. And I thought that was really fascinating. When we're talking about, here's one of your answers on your review sheet. In Latin, persona is a theatrical mask. Carl Jung used the term persona when referring to the masks that people wear. When we do Carl Jung, I think you'll kind of see that he's talking about a front, a mask, a front, a persona, a way in which you want to be seen, but it isn't necessarily you. A theatrical mask, a persona. We'll get to that when we get to Carl Jung, okay? But the exact definition that Allport finally attached to personality, even though he said, and you'll find all the various theorists, they don't agree on the definition. Their definition of personality, you are going to find, is very much wrapped up in their biography. I cover a couple of the biographies, but not all of them. You might find it interesting. If we don't happen to cover a particular biography, you may want to take a look at that in the book, because it is really interesting to see where their theories came from. And it came from their life experience. That's what it was. His final definition of personality was the dynamic organization within the individual of those psychophysical systems that determine his characteristic behavior and thoughts, okay? Personality theories. A personality theory is an idea or concept of what makes people who they are. So what determines who you are? That's what each individual theorist's idea means. Each theory proposes to identify the most influential factor. So what was most influential in determining your personality? Well, that's what the various theorists are going to try to put forth to us. Are any one of them right? Are any one of them wrong? Well, that's when you get into the idea of putting everything together and something being bigger than the sum of its parts, or the definition of Gestalt. The Gestalt theory of personality is the idea that all of the theories probably contribute a good bit and should be paid attention to. So that comes up with various ideas of what the underlying elements are to determine what you are. Many of the theories conflict, leading to a range of ideas and personality development. And if you get into reading any of the journal articles, they get pretty, what's the word I'm looking for? Pretty edgy in some of the ways they put things out there when they're disagreeing with another theorist. Okay, there's 6 schools of thought that we're going to look at through the semester. And those are psychoanalytic, behavioristic, humanistic, or existentialism, cognitive, trait theories, and the evolutionary theory, okay? The psychoanalytic theory. The theorists we're going to look at here are going to be Adler, Horney, Melanie Klein, Erik Erikson, Madeline Kahn. Madeline Kahn, she's a movie star. No, that's not Madeline Kahn. That's Helmut's girlfriend. And then Carl Jung. And obviously the father of psychoanalytic theory, Sigmund Freud. Psychoanalytic theory. All of these theorists kind of agree in a couple of things. One, it's your past. Your childhood is very much going to determine who and what you're going to become. All psychoanalytic theories agree in the importance of the unconscious mind. Also, all psychoanalytic theories are conflict theories. Conflict theories. With Freud, it's going to be the id and the superego. With Jung, it's going to be anything and its opposite. With Erikson, he's got 8 stages where you've got 2 dichotomies that you're going to tend in one direction or another. Karen Horney, it was the tyranny of the shoulds. It was fighting with your ideal self and your ideal self and your real self. What you see as yourself as being idealized and what actually exists. And Alfred Adler was very similar to Karen Horney's ideas. Melanie Klein, she's a very interesting individual. I think you'll find her presentation rather, I'm trying to think of another way to say out there. But anyway, we'll cover those theorists, okay? Behavioristic theory. These are all of your ideas that we learned what we were going to become. And we're looking at the various theorists like Pavlov, Skinner, we have Thorndike and Watson. They look at the impact that the environment has had on the individual, and that goes on to define the personalities. Behaviorists believe that all human behavior is driven by instinct. It's all driven by instinct, okay? Behaviorist view of personality is that personality is an adaptation to the environment. So the environment's going to react to you in a particular fashion. You're going to do something, and this is Skinner's behaviorism, operant conditioning. There's going to be a reinforcer or a punisher, and that is what's going to determine what your personality is. And we will look at all of those as we go along. Humanistic, existential theory. Who are we talking about here? Well, we're talking about Maslow, Rogers. We're talking about Viktor Frankl. We're talking about Rollo May. Viktor Frankl. We're going to be talking about his book, Man's Search for Meaning. The book is attached in the course materials section, okay? You don't have anything in your textbook on Viktor Frankl. You may want to look ahead. It's a short read. The book's a small paperback. It's only about 180 pages. It is a really fast read because it was so fascinating. I am not a good reader. I am a poor reader, okay? I read very slowly. It took me 2 evenings, 2 sittings to read it. It was so interesting. So I hope you find it as interesting. The focus is on the individual and their responsibility for their own development. When we're talking humanistic psychology, the main point here is that you are responsible for who you are. No more blaming the past. No more, oh, the environment did this one did this, that one did that. No. You make choices. You are responsible for the choices. You have existential choices you can make. That's humanistic and existential theory. They felt that psychoanalysis and behaviorism, they were too pessimistic. They are being optimistic in the sense that you have a choice. You got a personal choice. Everything is up to you. Do you get it? It's not where something's affecting the way you were. No. Not so. You affect your future. You determine who you're going to be. So they're more positive in that way. They take a teleological approach. What's teleology? Teleology is the idea that you're goal-oriented. You set a goal in the future, and that's it. It's goal-oriented. The cognitive theory. Cognitive theory, we're looking at individuals like Albert Bandura, Rotter, and Michel. They're all talking about learning. You've learned through life, but they focus a little more on the encoding and retrieval of the information. Also, they look at the role that your expectations play. This is very interesting because we're moving in a really neat direction. Namely, what you expect to happen, you start paying attention to. If you remember scientific method in Introduction to Psychology, you had a term called confirmation bias. Well, when you start expecting something to happen, you start noticing everything that supports that. And that's kind of where they're coming from. It closely linked to teleological things, but not exactly. And that's what they're looking at, goals, goal setting. The trait theory of personality. The trait theory is looking at the idea that, no, it's not the environment. No, it's not your past. What they are talking about, they are interested just in the measurement of traits. And they suggest it's very much biological. You brought something into life with you. You have a genetic propensity towards something, including your personality. So here again, we're looking at Gordon Allport, looking at Costa and McRae, the people who put together the Big Five. We have Eysenck and Cattell. Those are our trait theorists we're going to be taking a fast look at, okay? The various traits are aspects of personality that are relatively stable over time, and they will differ from individual to individual, okay? Next, we are looking at the evolutionary theory of development. The evolutionary theory, this one's interesting. This is David Buss. This is Eric Fromm. This focuses on the why of behavior rather than the how of biological models or descriptive taxonomies. This is looking at your past, your life, evolution. It is best regarded as a theory about the origins rather than the content of human behavior. So where did your personality come from? What was responsible for the development of your personality? That will be the evolutionary look we'll look at. Okay. This first chapter takes a look at scientific. So we just have a few terms that are in here. And the roots of modern science in philosophy is the idea of epistemology. When we're talking about scientific method. So where did we come about all the ways of understanding what it is we believe pertaining to personality? Well, epistemology is the study of acquired knowledge. How did you come about that? So what it's asking, what the idea of epistemology is, it's asking you the question, why do you believe that? Where did you get that from? How do you know that? And when one of the classes I do is research methods, and that's very important. You believe our personality comes from such and such. Why do you say that? What makes you believe that? What evidence do you have that brought you about to that conclusion? Okay? Epistemology. In epistemology, how we come about things, reveal truths, intuition, authority, tenacity, rationalism. What do those things mean? Reveal truth. Reveal truth is like, well, God revealed this to me. And every religion has the idea of revealed truths. Why do you believe that? Well, it's a mystery of the faith. It's called, Zorn Kierkegaard used the term leap of faith. Reveal truths. It was given to us by some spiritual being. Intuition, something you just feel. Do you ever have just a feeling that something was right? Just ever have a feeling something was right? Do you have a feeling that, oh my gosh, my politics are going to pour out here. Did you ever have I had an immediate feeling that our current president was going to be a total disaster. As he was coming down yes, my intuition told me, oh my God, this doesn't look good. Authority. We get a lot of things by authority. Doctors, people of that sort. And do they deserve that authority? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Tenacity. Well, we've just come to believe this. This is what we've always believed. Rationalism and empiricism are moving toward scientific method. Empiricism is, can you see it? Can you touch it? Can you measure it? That's empiricism. Not, well, I believe it because it's a teaching of the church, whatever church that. I was born and raised Catholic. I no longer consider myself a Catholic, but that's a good example. Why do you believe in a virgin birth? Well, it's a mystery of the church. It's dogma of the church. And they have it. But empiricism is the idea of, can you measure it? Can you touch it? Can you reproduce it? That's empiricism. Now, when we're talking, we very quickly have to talk about deductive reasoning and inductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning is very simple. You have three premises. Do I have another? No, I do not. You get three premises, usually. If you take logic, what they give you for deductive reasoning for the first example is, all men are mortal. And what you're doing, you're going from a generalization to a specific case. So we start by saying, all men are mortal. There's your generalization, okay? And then we say, Socrates was a man, a specific case. So if our first assumption, our first premise was true, that all men are mortal, if Socrates was a man, what that then means is that all men must be mortal. That's deductive reasoning. But that's not what scientific method is based on. Scientific method is based on inductive reasoning. That goes from a specific case to a generalization. Whoops. Specific case. If I were going to show you a picture of a crow, and if I were going to ask you, what color are crows? Well, I think most of you would say, except the young lady who was in a child development class, the rest of you would say, well, all crows are black. Well, that's incorrect, because when you make specific observations with absolute certainty, your generalization is going to have a probability of being correct or incorrect. That's your p-value when you're looking at a statistical analysis. P-value is the likelihood of you having made a mistake. And there's always a likelihood of having made a mistake. Inductive reasoning. Empiricism, direct observation. Logical positivism. The ideas here are that there are things that don't lend themselves to scientific method. Theology, metaphysics, my belief in God, a leap of faith. Well, that's fine for your religion, for your personal spiritual belief, but that doesn't lend itself toward scientific investigation. True knowledge is based on empirical evidence obtained through